Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have the privilege and honor of having Renie Cavallari, who is the founder, CEO, chief instigator of Aspire, an award-winning international marketing and leadership expert. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ken. It's great to be here.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. We got a lot to talk about today. So tell me your story, what you do, how'd you get into it, and tell me your life's journey. How'd you end up where you are today?
Well, my life's journey. Well, let's just start with working class kid from Philly. So scrappy by nature and really got lucky. I've just had great mentors, great coaches along the way. I am a natural born learner. Like I just can't have enough, never outgrew the fifth grade. Like why? Well, what else? Well, just curiosity. And I went to FSU, go Knowles, and then ended up joining Sheraton Corporation and worked for them and other entrepreneurs, got into really working with some entrepreneurs that had a huge influence on me. And at one point I had an opportunity to become a partner in a good sized firm, and which was something because it was back in the mid 90s. And, as a woman, there weren't many people in 1994 getting offers to become a partner. And, but it took me back because I really had to stop and think about what do I want to do? Like, do I like this work? And I was heading towards COO. That's what I was going to be doing. And I actually hated doing operations, but I'm a strategist by trade. And I was really curious about learning and how do you shift human behavior. And I was doing that. But I literally walked away from that opportunity. Everyone, of course, thought I was nuts. I thought I might be a little nuts too. And I started Aspire. And Powered by Aspire has been around 27 years, which is crazy since I have clearly attention deficit. And it has it's been evolving for 27 years. Great clients that have pushed us to think differently, be disruptive in effective ways. And it's really allowed me personally to study human behavior not in a philosophical way, but with real people doing really important work.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that y'all do?
Well, we are definitely a leadership development organization. We start with strategy. So we work with organizations on their growth strategies. How are you going to get from here to there? And that requires, first and foremost, aligning leaders. So that's why our focus was so deep in leadership. And then the second way to get from here to there isn't really great strategy, which was hard for me to believe being a strategist. Like I thought strategy was the end all be all until I went into operations and realized, oh, this stuff is hard to actually execute, and it's culture that gets things done. And so we really had, our niche is leadership and helping strengthen cultures so that you gain that synergy of people. When there's a serious connection amongst people and a sense of real purpose of what they're doing and how they're affecting others, it brings a sense of pride. And so that's really where we started. And then we got into training, because if you want to shift human behavior, you have to teach people to do things differently than what they're currently doing. So that's really the essence, is the leadership, cultural alignment, and then the training piece of things.
Well, I agree with you. I know what I've seen over the years, I've worked with a lot of law firms all over the country, and the ones that had the best culture had the best firms, and they had the best people because they hold on to them. And what I saw when all this great resignation was, the law firms that had the great cultures, they lost very few. The ones that didn't, they lost a lot of good people. And also something you said about leadership, that's without a good leader, it doesn't matter. You can have all the strategy in the world if you don't have a leader to gather the troops in alignment with the core values, and the vision, and share that. And, I just think what you're doing is great, because most people especially lawyers, they think it's all a bunch of rah-rah stuff. It's not. I've seen it. I've seen the firms that are most successful. Something you didn't say about is that you've written a load of books, and one of them, the latest one, is the one I want to talk about, is a bestseller. Can you tell us about the book?
Yeah, as well, it's called HEADTRASH, the leading killer of human potential. And it really is work that I've been working on for 20 plus years. So it's a series of stories and why we have head trash. Where does it come from? And what's going on with this brain of ours? Because it really tells our story. And how we're going to experience life is really about how we think about everything. And so we started to understand, and it started with leaders, of course, is how do we help leaders be more effective? And of course, there's been a ton of research. There's nothing new when I tell you that mindset will predict a person's potential. It's just clear. It's kind of like leaders predict how effective a culture is, and mindset predicts how effective a leader is, or a human being in general. And so in the book, we zero in on what we call the shift, which is how do you shift out of the disconnected side of your emotional brain, which is where negativity, worry, fear, anxiety, and all that head trash and imprints live, the negative things, over to the connected side of your emotional brain, which is where positivity, your ability to solve problems, like on the disconnected side, you get stuck in the problem. On the connected side, you're in the solution mode, collaborative mode. This is where the power of your team really can get turbocharged up when everybody's in the connected side. And so we zero in through the book on how do you spend as much time as possible on the connected side of your emotional brain, everything from your habits to what we call the own it, shift it, dump it model. And so we go through the tools associated. Owning it is easy. Like I got a head trash. It kept me up, or somebody's ticking me off, or somebody cut me off. I mean, it could be anything that triggers our head trash. But really, the power for us is when we learn how to shift out of our head trash. That's where your personal power is. And when you make that shift, then you can dump it. Because once you shift out of those nagging, nasty voices that are undermining you and sucking your energy, now all of a sudden you can gain clarity. You see, head trash it creates emotional stress. It sucks our energy. And when we can eliminate that emotional stress, we gain clarity. When we have clarity, we take productive action. So we take action all the time when we have lots of stress, but generally speaking, it's not necessarily great action. It could be reaction. So we want to really make sure that we as leaders for ourselves, as well as when other people are working beside us, are taking productive action. And that's the power of the shift.
So when you say, I've always been accused of seeing the glass half full. My wife tells me all the time that I'm the most optimistic man she's ever met. Maybe that's the deal. Maybe I got the mindset. I don't know why. But I mean, when I see an obstacle, I just want to figure out, I don't say, oh, well, God, we can't do it. I figure, how can I go under it, around it, over it? I just try to figure out, there's a book out called Grit, and they say that the most successful people are not the smartest people. It's the people that just persevere and just will not give up. And I always told people I was not that smart. In school, I was okay, but I never was number one in my class. I might have been in the top 10%, but I was never that guy, but I just never gave up. Has that got something to do with it too? Because I see lawyers, it's funny because they all went to law school. They're all really smart. They all got the same amount of time in the day, but some of them are just so much more successful. I mean, I guess that in every business, or every profession, or every kind of industry. But, I mean, is it the fact that they got all this head trash, or is there something else? I mean,
yeah.
What are
So
you seeing?
you've actually touched on it. So first and foremost, grit, it lives on the connected side of your emotional brain. It's that belief that you can do it. But here's what you do, what you just said that is natural for you. So somebody sees an obstacle in their law firm, and they look at it and it's insurmountable. And some people get stuck in the problem. So when you have grit, it's about the questions you ask yourself. So one of the most powerful ways to shift from the disconnected side to the connected side is to look at the quality of the questions you ask. So when you are asking that question, like, how do we get through this? How do we get over this? Where will we go next? What's the first thing we can do to beat this? That's the connected side of your emotional brain. You're asking questions that allow you to really open up creativity, to think differently about things, to find solutions. Now, a person who is asking questions like, why did this happen? Who did this? How did this happen? They're stuck. Those questions are what we call stuck questions. And they keep you stuck in the disconnected side of your emotional brain. That's the thing. It's that you naturally, these are the questions that come to you. And some people, and by the way, we can all get these questions, Ken. It's just a muscle. So some people ask themselves stuck questions, and it keeps them in that disconnected side. Well, stuck questions are a learned behavior, just like shift questions. And so, like, one of my favorite shift questions, in particular when someone, ticks me off. I have a global company. When I wake up in the morning, the odds are someone has not done something I'm happy about, right? Now, if I wake up in the morning and I go to my social media, or I start looking at my email first, I create an environment that already throws me into the disconnected side of my emotional brain. Now, so part of shift is look at what you do. What are the habits? What do you do that ensures that it gives you a strong start for your day? But the other thing is, I ask myself, like, when something bugs me, and by the way, I'm married too. This is a really good question. When my husband is like, I'm looking at him going, you're driving me nuts, or what, are you crazy, or why did you say that, or whatever it is. If I'm in the why did you say that, and I'm stuck over there. But if I say, who do I want to be right now? It shifts. Because generally speaking, I don't answer with, I want to be a pain in the neck. I want to be a witch. I want to be or what's the first thing I can do to accept this situation? Or what's the first thing I can do to improve the situation? Those are questions that shift. And that's the power of when we understand this own it, shift it, dump it model. It works as leaders. It works at home. Once we know what it is, and then we build our muscle around the quality of the questions we ask ourselves, we can change the trajectory of how we see things and how we think. We feel. I feel the way I think. F comes before T. So if I can learn how to redirect my thoughts into productive action and productive thoughts, I'm going to have a whole different experience and feeling than I am if I'm stuck in the negativity and the questions that don't actually serve me.
Yeah. It's funny. I've seen people, mostly lawyers. That's who I deal with all my life. But I call it, to get in that's analysis paralysis, where they just can't make the next move. And it's like, personally, it drives me crazy because I say, just freaking do it. I send them a pair of Nike shoes because really, I mean, the deal is, here's what I've been told, and I don't have anything other than just some really smart people told me. People want decisions from the leaders, and listen, it's okay if it's a bad decision. They just want a damn decision because they want to move forward. And if you sit there and spend 3 months trying to decide whether we're going to go forward or sideways or backwards, I mean, I think people lose their confidence in you. I don't know. Do you deal with that in the book, or has that got anything to do with what you're talking about?
Well, actually, I deal with that in the book called Aspire to Lead and Aspire to Shine. Both of those books really get into what you're talking about, which is communication. When we don't know how or don't effectively communicate with people, and so when we communicate with people, we have to communicate with them so they can hear you. So just because I say something doesn't mean I'm in communication with someone. What matters is if it lands, someone else can hear it. And so when we don't gain that communication, so let's say things are going on and people feel out of the loop, well, they get head trash. They go to the disconnected side of their emotional brain. Oh my God, what's going on? Does anybody know what's happening? Who is in charge here? Why aren't they talking? They must not know what to do. They're stuck questions. So by the lack of communication, we stick people in the disconnected side. It's kind of like, I don't know if you ever had anybody in your life who maybe, like for me, like when people don't talk to me, so they're upset. I can feel they're upset, but they don't talk. And it creates a sense of disconnection. That's really damaging to relationships. So we want to create connection for our people, and that is through that communication. And it's also fine to say, I'm not really sure what's going on here. I'll tell you what I can. Or I'm not sure that I have the answer. Let's talk about, what do you think the 3 things we should be considering are? And when we engage people in dialogue, we decrease their emotional stress. When we decrease the emotional stress, now all of a sudden they don't make things up in their brain. The drama doesn't just start to come up. So we gain clarity of what's happening, and that allows them to take productive action. It's really a simple model. Decrease emotional stress as a leader. People gain clarity. When people gain clarity, they take productive action. That's why, like, a morning stand-up meeting is so powerful, because you can get together, and the meeting is really about helping people connect and focus. What do you get when you connect? You decrease emotional stress. What do you get when you get clarity? You're focused. When you take productive action, you feel good at the end of the day.
Yep.
And then you hit, replay. Next day, replay. It's just that simple. And I think we know that it's simple, but we don't necessarily build muscle around doing it on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of, I call them daily huddles.
Mm-hmm.
Last 7 minutes at tops. What is your win, from yesterday? What's your priority today? And if you're stuck or whatever, take it outside the meeting, will help you. But yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. I've convinced a lot of law firms to go to that. They really are against it because they hate meetings, but these are not meetings. This is just really keeping everybody, so the left hand knows what the right hand's doing, and everybody, like you said, communication, connection. I think it's, I've got a virtual company, and we do it through Zoom every morning. I mean, we do phone calls and we do Zoom once a week, but we do phone calls, take 7 minutes, and everybody just kind of feels they know what's going on. And I just think it's a good way to communicate.
You're right on, because Ken, think about it. There isn't a professional sports team, period, that doesn't have a huddle before they hit game day. Well, in a law firm, game day is every day. In my business, game day is every day. I don't wait for Sunday. Game day is today. And so that huddle is how they connect, how they get fired up, how they align together. It's the last bit of communication that they need before they go out there. It might be like, hey, their defense is looking for you. Who are you protecting? Or they're going to, that's that last piece of information. And when people feel that kind of emotional connection, it changes any business. And you can see it too. Like, you'll see a great sports team and they just can't get connected, right? They might have a great coach. They might have tons of great players. And yet that team just couldn't get off the ground. It requires leadership, and it requires that sense of emotional engagement that allows people to really want to participate.
Yeah, I agree. So the stuff in your head, you said you got to grab hold of it, the strengths or whatever, but how do you get somebody to do that? I mean, it's one thing to say it, but to do it, I mean, like you said, for me, it comes naturally, but some people it don't. I mean, it's like some things, it's like fear. I mean, sometimes I ask Laurie, are you afraid of success? I mean, are you scared of it? Do you feel like you don't deserve it? I mean, what's the problem? Because I read a long time ago that, fear, people get scared of things or are scared to take a chance is because we're all scared of the unknown. That's what fear is, because we don't know, but I mean, I guess by heart, I'm a chance taker, as I get older, I'm more calculated because I can't make back my losses as quick. I don't have as much, I don't have as much time left on the earth to make up. When I was in my 30s and 40s, it didn't really bother me. I said, I'll just make some more. I'm not worried about it. I'm willing to take a risk, Well,
the thing is, Ken, everybody has fear, and so when we come to realize, like, okay, fear, what is it really? Usually it has something to do with control. One thing humans hate, like, I have never met anyone who likes out of control. Humans like control. And
Yeah.
I always laugh because people will tell me, well, my boss, such and such is a control freak. And I always say, everyone's a control freak. It's just that what you want to control, Ken, might be different than what I want to control. So when
Right.
you're controlling something that doesn't freak me out, I'm like, God, he's a control freak over that. So we have these things that trigger our head trash. And what we need to understand is, what can we do every day that helps us start the day on the connected side of your emotional brain? And I want to go back to this because when we talk about success is an end result. But success to me, like people ask me, well, you're successful, and I'll laugh and I'll say, yeah, I'm successful because I have joy. That's my definition of success. How much joy is in my life? How much joy did I, like this morning, I went and I had bagels with my grandson. He's 4. I got to tell you, I'm having a successful day. I mean, he just thinks, his Renie just rocks the world. Like, come on, is there anything better than that? Not a thing in my book. So when you look at how can you start your day, what are the habits that you have each morning? Like I got enough energy to like this is real. Like this is how it is without caffeine. Well, for me, I meditate in the morning. Why? Puts me in my connected side of my emotional brain. I journal because it shifts me. I actually just wrote a new book called The Joy Journal, and it shifts you. It's like a daily practice, takes 3 minutes, and it shifts you from the disconnected side to the connected side of your emotional brain. So I do that. I journal because, I'm a writer, but, sometimes I need a prompt. Then I do my yoga. Why? Decreases my emotional stress. Some people run. I'm from Philly. The only time I run anymore, like when I was playing lacrosse, I was running. Now I run because you're chasing my butt. That's the other reason.
Yeah.
So, but there's so many things. And actually in the book, we had done a survey of over 1,000 people. What are the things that you do in your life that decrease emotional stress? And there are 29 that were identified. And some are like super simple. Like, what kind of music do you listen to when you're driving in the car or going to the office? If you're listening to stuff that's sucking your energy and ticking you off, well, it's throwing you in the disconnected side of your emotional brain. And like, it doesn't mean that we have to avoid information. Actually, it's complete different. If we have to be in the challenges of life, no doubt about it. But if we can see them and really look from the connected side of our emotional brain, then we can say things like, well, what can I do next? Or can I control this? No, I can't. Okay, I got to let that go. Or how can I repair this relationship versus why did this happen? Right? Yeah. So it's really about our being aware that we can control the narrative of our world.
Yeah, I've always said when people will learn from it, but let's think about the future, but how not to repeat it. But I don't like to dwell on it because it's negative. I just don't like negativity around me, to be honest with you. I actually fired a girl, that one of my paralegals one time, because every time she walked in my office, she sighed all day long. I couldn't handle it. And she was good, but I couldn't handle the sigh. It was sucking the life out of me. And everybody laughed at me. When I told my office man, I said, we got to fire her. He said, why? I said, she sighs. I said, I can't handle it. I can't handle it.
Well, who we hang with, that's another finding in the book. It's like who you hang with is who you become, the kind of environment you create. Create an environment where you feel good. It doesn't have to be you don't have to have lots of space, but make sure that your space helps decrease that emotional stress. When she was sighing, she would increase your emotional stress. I'm sorry, but when I'm paying you, you don't get to increase my emotional stress.
Yeah. You're right about that. I always said that you're the 5 people you hang around with the most, and I love masterminds. I've been masterminding for almost 25 years now, either being in one or facilitating them. And that's the great thing I like about them, because it brings everybody, like-minded people together that want to be successful, and they want to grow, they want to learn. Instead of being around, sometimes you got family people or other buddies that you hang out with, they're kind of a little jealous anyway, and they're always throwing darts at everything, or the party pooper, oh, you can't do that, oh, you can't do this, and I think if you get around other people that are jacked up like you are and want to go take over the world, or at least your little corner of it, I just feel like you get a lot of energy out of it. And I feel like, I don't know. I think you become this whole group, you kind of rubs off on each other. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. When people help us rise and people help us fall, and especially after the last, 2 years, man, it has been a ride. I mean, it has been a rough road. We have all been through it, and now things are, right now I have a company called the RCI Institute, and that's the company that studies. So we studied the Great Resignation. Right now, we're focused on what we call the Great Reset, which is going to happen coming into the fall as organizations start to really get strategic. They have to reimagine. When we start to understand that who we hang with, that affects us. And so and hanging, by the way, can be doing exactly what we're doing. Hanging out and talking. It could be listening to this podcast. You're hanging with people who help you rise. And that changes how you feel. So, because it's changing how you think about things. It's not that you have to do, and you asked a really great question. Some people just don't do, and that's true. I wrote this book called Aspire to Shine, and it's all about how to turn on your motivational switch. And I don't know if you're a parent, Ken, but I'm a parent, and if I know anything, I can inspire my children, but I cannot motivate them. They choose. And so the power is in making the choice. You see, when we don't make the choice, it actually sucks our energy. We worry. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So making a choice, you always you take corrective action along the way.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have enough time together for me to tell you how many bad choices I've made and wrong turns I've made, whether business, personal, health, whatever it is. Most of the time I even was like, this doesn't feel right. And I did it anyway. So when you understand your own power and, you can acknowledge, so remember that, own it. When you acknowledge your head trash and what's going on in that brain of yours, then you can start asking those shift questions. And I have a ton of resources, in particular, shift questions, a handful of them that you can just memorize. So they're in your pocket, so to speak. So when it hits the fan, you've got your shift questions. They're at dumpheadtrash.com. Click on resources. There's no shenanigans. We don't sell your name. We don't send you crap. We don't do anything. It's just there to help people so that they could shift. Because
what was that again?
Dumpheadtrash.com.
Okay.
And you click on resources, and there's all kinds of resources there, from the own it, shift it, dump it model, shift questions, all kinds of stuff to help you. And when, our goal is to get as many people on the connected side of our emotional brain as possible, because the world is a nicer place.
Yeah.
And I'd like to live in a nicer place.
Yeah. But you were talking about it. I always tell people I've never had any failures, just some really expensive learning experiences sometimes, some less, some more. But I try to look at them as learning experiences. I hate to say they were failures.
I think in hindsight, I think for me, in hindsight, they're not failures. But when I'm in the throes of something, I get my fair share of head trash, and it sucks my energy. And
we all do.
I get stuck in feeling like it's a failure. And you're right. I recently had a situation where, I was so bummed out. I had a COO, fantastic guy with me 10 years, and he quit. And man, it hurt me. First of all, as a leader, I was like, whoa. How did I miss this? 2, what about this is a reflection of me? Like, my ego got in there too. And, of course, in the moment, it really hurt me. I felt bad about myself. Where are we going? What will happen next? I didn't have clarity. And when I could really get that emotional stress down, when I got out of my head trash and could start to ask productive questions. Okay, what's the first thing I need to do to help stabilize this company? And okay, so where are our priorities? How will we announce to our clients so they don't worry? So now I'm asking productive questions to move through this process. Yeah. And ultimately, it's really allowed me to get to do what I ultimately wanted to do, but wouldn't have done in the past dynamic. Just wouldn't have done it. But at the time, I wasn't going, boy, this is a great opportunity and I feel good. I felt like crap. I mean, I want to say I felt great, but I felt bad on so many levels. And I think that's the thing about, another piece of head trash is if we can be vulnerable with our head trash with other people, right? We can say to people, I know it feels, let's say you have a law firm, they're merging. People are like, am I going to lose my job? What's going to happen? Who's in charge? Who will my boss be? Will I like them? If a leader can sit down, and I love that you think about, small groups, because small groups allows for real communication, real vulnerability. So, I remember when COVID happened, we had to lay people off first time in 25 years. It was my 25th anniversary. I had never laid a person off in 25 years. And it hurt me, man. It was a bad day, of course, for them. And it was a really, really rough couple of weeks in terms of, these are people I cared about. They didn't lose their job for any reason other than, our business was tanking out. We do a lot of business in hospitality and tourism and senior living. If the people weren't dying, the businesses were. It was like death everywhere. But what we did, and we were really proud of this, our senior leadership team immediately it was in mid-March, before we, laid people up, we figured out what is our resiliency plan. And I love this, like when your firm is going through difficult times, the question is, so what is our resiliency plan? And that allows you to zero in. Our questions were about, okay, so what do we need to do to stabilize the business we have and ensure that our clients feel good? And then second, what operationally do we need to do? And unfortunately, that meant laying off people. That was part of it. But think about, these are questions. So they shifted us out of the fear of, oh my God, what is COVID and what's it going to do, into productive action. The third question, and this is really a great tool for your leaders listening, is how will we continue to give? So our firm has always been very philanthropic, but when you give, right, you're in gratitude. Well, gratitude's in the connected side. So people were feeling great. We did over 500 free hours of executive coaching for anyone who we had ever worked with. So if you were a C-level or a senior level player that we had worked with your firm at any time, now we've been around for 25 years at the time, we were giving away free executive coaching and we did 83 speeches, Zoom, for free, all over the place. Every single client, we were like, here's leading the way forward. How do you go through? What's your resilience? All these things. So when you do that, now all of a sudden people feel power. Was our plan perfect? Hell no. No, it wasn't perfect at all. Was it without pain? There was a lot of pain. I had tears. And, did I not have nights where I just struggled to sleep? Yeah. But it was in that plan that I could take productive action. And that gave us momentum to get out faster.
Yeah. This has been great.
Thank you.
So, really, thank you. So if people want to contact you, your company, how's the best way for them to get up with you, Renie?
Oh, well, for Head Trash, Leading Killer of Human Potential, the Joy Journal, go to, dumpheadtrash.com. And there's resources. You can buy the book. You can buy it through Amazon. You buy it through Amazon regardless of where you go. And then in terms of getting in touch with me, it's Renie, R-E-N as in Nancy, I-E at dumpheadtrash.com. And I'd love to hear from you.
All righty. Good deal. Well, listen, thank you so much. And until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.